Hello again guys, and welcome back to another House of Devon video with Big Al Devlin, that's myself. This video is actually a response video to one of the videos filmed by Celtic God about walking or waking dreams, as they're called. I myself am in a waking dream. I suffered from a car crash, numerous injuries to about 2 years ago, and it was a very severe car crash, and it was literally a sort of life and death situation, and for all intents and purposes I should have died that day, but I didn't. And a few days after the crash, I developed symptoms that I couldn't put a name to. No doctor's touched, no one's gone near me regards to medical career so far, regards explaining these symptoms. But basically, I feel like I've kind of got one foot in the grave almost. I feel like I'm dead, and I'm questioning whether what around me is a reality. Is it a dream? Is it a coma? Is it a sort of purgatory, or is it a form of a spirit realm? Whatever. But Celtic God has done 2 videos so far, and I think he's going to be doing a 3rd video on this waking or walking death. I mean, even if you guys don't find it interesting, it's helped me. It's sorted my mind out. I now understand where I am, what's happening to me, because it's an old Celtic belief system, essentially. I mean, the Celts, all ancient peoples were more accustomed to death than what we are today. You know, infant mortality was much higher. Infection killed a lot more people than it does so now. You died much younger, and there were wars, they were fighting and things like this. And so, you know, they were much more sort of knowledgeable on this kind of side of things. And this waking death, or this walking death that I'm experiencing, is something that they understood. And I can tell you 100% they understood it completely, because the way that Celtic God describes it in his videos, in these 2 videos that he's done so far, and as I say, I'm hopefully he'll be doing a 3rd, not that I'm putting any pressure on him. In those 2 videos, he describes perfectly, exactly, pretty much how I feel. But I needed him to sort of tell me, oh yeah, what you're experiencing is this, and this is why. Just like a doctor, I wanted a doctor to tell me, though, this is what's happening to you, and this is why. Obviously, the doctors deal with the physical stuff, your body and the chemicals in your brain and stuff, which are all normal for myself. But they don't deal with the other side of things, which faith and belief can. And so really this is just me sort of making sure with Celtic God that I've understood him correctly on the points that he made, and also just sort of acknowledge the points he made as being very useful. And hearing them also through myself, you'll also see someone learning about something they never knew about, learning something about themselves that's happened to them in the last couple of years, and trying to make a connection between the two, being told this, having this, and joining the 2 together. And, you know, if I'm wrong, then obviously, hopefully, Celtic God can tell me and go, no, this is kind of, tweak it like this, and that would make more sense. So I've got a lot of notes here. In fact, I'll be doing a 2nd video also, because he mentions about prayer on there also. I'll be doing a video about do paganists, do pagan, sorry, well, I'll be doing 2 videos. I'll do a video on fate, and I'll do Nordic pagans pray. Okay, but I'll be focusing, because I do tend to waffle on and change subjects, just simply because I'm so passionate about this subject. I will keep now onto this sort of waking dream topic that we're talking about. Basically, in a waking dream, you have a life or death situation. That's the word that we use today in modern terms. You have a life or death situation where literally you should have died, but you didn't. It's at that point that one of 2 things have happened. Either the gods have intervened and said, no, you're not dying today, and they forced you back into your body, okay? Or your spirit or your soul or whatever, your spirit has said, no, I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready to go, and fights death, not physically, but like says, no, I'm going, I want to stay on Earth. I want to stay where I am. And death in Celtic mythology or Celtic belief systems is seen as the god of mercy more so than the god of death, because she's just there to relieve you from your pain. So if you're in significant pain, she'll come there to relieve you and let you pass over to the spirit realm. But if you are so determined to put up with whatever pain you've gone through and to re-enter your body and suffer that pain that you're going to suffer, then death will allow you. Death's not there to snatch you away and take you against your will. She's there to help you. And so it is possible that if you fight hard enough that you can get back into your body. Now, when I was unconscious and I, as I said, I found out at a later date that basically I didn't have a pulse. Whether that makes me dead or not at that point, I don't know. But I certainly did, and certainly do think of having seen a meadow. Folkvanger is how I've interpreted it now. And I felt so much at peace there. But then I heard in the distance my girlfriend screaming my leg, and I don't want to die and all the rest of it. I don't really want to go back into it because it's dark memories. But I remember hearing that she needed me, and so I didn't want the peace no more. First time in my life I felt complete peace, and I didn't want it. And the next moment I wake up chewing on glass and, obviously dealing with the aftermath of the crash that I was involved in, the car crash that I was involved in. And so I think in my case, I actually, asked death to put me back into my body. I don't want to go, but not for my own sake. I'm ready to move on, perhaps, but I'm not ready to move on when there's people around that still need me. Okay, and so I re-entered my body, and I think that's probably when my heart rejigged, because, as I say, they did have an ECG on me, and they were going to apply a defibrillator, I think, but they didn't in the end, because my heart just rejigged itself all of a sudden, and I was sort of back in the normal realms, the mortal realms, so to speak. Just before coming back, when I was in the, as I would interpret it as Folkvanger, the meadow of the dead, i.e. Freya's realm, where she accepts the dead souls that she's accepted and taken. At that point, I was mostly dead and partly alive. As Celtic God explained, in the old religions, you're not completely dead until several days after what we would medically determine as death these days. The soul lingers, the spirit lingers for some period of time and slowly kind of leaks out of the body. And so at this point, I was mostly dead, but still partly alive. So I still had a tether onto my body, my meat sack, as a Celtic God would put it. And so I had that tether to be able for either death to put me back in, or for me to put myself back into my body. But during the time that my soul, my spirit, sort of was outside of the body, and was within the spirit realms, was within Folkvanger, which I believe is in Valheim, the realm of the Vanir. It encounters to some extent its ancestors, if not directly. I mean, I didn't see anyone in those meadows. I was alone, but I was I was lying down on soil that I should not have been on. I was breathing air that I should not be breathing. I could hear water that, I was nowhere near, physically speaking. But my spirit, my soul was there, and it was real. And I became perhaps closer to my ancestors than I could have never become without an event like I went through. And as a result, Celtic God says that your spirit swells as a result. In many ways, the way I interpreted it, and I don't know if I'm wrong here, so don't take my word for it. Hopefully Celtic God can explain. But your spirit kind of ages at this point a little bit. It becomes an older soul. It gains an affinity for some of your ancestors' sort of way of life a little bit more. My understanding of, and for me, before the crash, I wasn't pagan. I wasn't sure really. I wasn't agnostic. I was more atheist than anything else. But I was an atheist looking for an answer for what I felt inside. I believed in fate, and I truly believed there was something. But I was an atheist because I couldn't answer it. I didn't think I would ever find an answer for it. So I just described myself as an atheist. When I came back to the mortal realms, I felt that connection with the old gods, with my ancestors. I knew then that the gods that watched over me was not a Christian god, not was an Islamic god or anything along those lines. But it was the gods of my ancestors, the old gods, the Nordic gods. So much so that I was actually taken into Freya's Meadow of the Dead, Folkvangr. And my relationship with my ancestors, and I said the gods of my ancestors, has developed significantly since then. And I think, obviously, what Celtic God is saying, that this can be a consequence of your soul swelling, is completely true. It's happened to myself. Now, whether I've gained an affinity for sailing long ships and reading compasses and the stars, I don't know. Maybe I have. Maybe I could go out there and learn them far quicker and easier than I used to. I know I have studied astrology in the past in an attempt to be able to read the stars, to know where north is, east is, so on and so forth, the Big Dipper and the plough and all that. But I always struggled as a child. I was never very good at it. But maybe if I put my mind to it now, maybe I'll have that sort of greater affinity. I don't know if I was a little uncertain what Celtic God was going on about there, but maybe that's true. But I certainly do feel a much stronger affinity to my ancestors because, well, I'm practicing their faith now. Very much so as well. There's no doubt. I've marked my flesh all over with the marks of the old gods. I've taken my dedication to the old faith very seriously. So this is no sort of passing sort of fancy, so to speak. Now, he described basically at the point when you are mostly dead but partly alive. I hope my dog's not making too much noise. He's eating something at the moment. He's chewing his dinosaur off. But he said when you're mostly dead and partly alive, just before you go back into your body, it then flips into mostly alive but partly dead, because of course your soul is far bigger now. Your spirit is far bigger than it used to be because it's swollen after having encountered the ancestors and the gods and the godlike realms, the divine realms and stuff. So stuffing it into your body might make time, and it may never be able to be fully stuffed inside. And that almost feels like, as a result, you're not fully connected with your body because your soul's kind of not fully in your body, or it's not very exactly in the same places where it used to be. So you've got to learn to customize yourself to these new feelings that you have. And he said, obviously, there are two ways you can deal with it. You can keep questioning the reality of what's around you and think that, well, it's a dream with no consequences, and ultimately that can lead to very much your demise. Or you can accept it and make a better life for yourself and those around you. You can achieve some significant things. Why? Because no longer are you bound by fate. And that's a scary thing. For a Nordic paganist, that's a terrifying thing to be told, because fate is a very, very, very it's a massive thing. It's essentially what everything revolves around in Nordic paganism. Without fate, you don't really have Nordic paganism. You do, but it all kind of goes very messy without fate. And so all this time, like you say, I've been going along with the stream, and I have felt like, well, fate's pulling me in a direction. I might sometimes veer off path, but I always ending up where I'm supposed to be. I think my fate was to die that day, but now that I haven't died, I must admit, I don't have that feeling that I used to have of fate ruling over me. I feel free in many ways. I feel free to do whatever I want. I feel like I need to go in that direction, so to speak, a progressive direction, a forward direction. I need to, still progress with my life. I still need to age and things like that. There's still very much a linear progression of time. But in the meantime, as I say, I just don't. I feel I can achieve true greatness. I feel that, or certainly I'm not limited against trying to achieve that. And there are certain things that I'm trying to do to achieve such things. And it is terrifying to start off with, as I say, especially as a Nordic paganist, to feel that you haven't got fate ruling over you anymore. That you're walking, as he said, along the coastline of a stream, where everyone else is in the stream, but you're on the coastline, and you can veer away from that coastline if you want to some degree or another. Or you can pause, you can stop, you can wait, you can run faster than the tide, or the street, the current and stuff like that. Your choice to live your life now is no longer bound by fate, and it is a terrifying aspect. But I have come to terms with it now, and I hope to do the best that I can with it, with that opportunity. I think I've said pretty much, or picked up on most of the points that Celtic God made. He made some excellent points over his 2 videos. They're concerning points that he made in both videos. He did say that there are bad things that can happen for being in such a situation, and it would expand upon that in the 3rd video. So I'd like to hear about that. But other than that, I think I've answered all the questions and acknowledged all the points that were made there. So thank you very much, Celtic God, for making your video. Thank you for tuning in, the watchers. Hope you've seen how I'm learning off him, and how perhaps I'm wording it in slightly different ways or expanding upon different things, and then hopefully Celtic God can then say, yes, you got it right, or, well, no, actually, look at it like this, and we can all learn off one another. Again, thank you, Celtic God. Thank you, viewers, and I will see you soon. This is Big Al Devlin tuning out. See you soon.